So I was making the point in the last installment that we already live with a foundation of peace that peacemakers down through the generations, through their collective efforts, have bequeathed to us. And I would say that if those peacemakers had not done what they'd done, life on this planet mightn't exist now. So I don't think it's wise to look around and say, oh, you think peace has come to the world? You think peace has been introduced? Can't be. The solution for peace hasn't been given because look at what's happening around us. There's a war going on there and there and there and there. And my mother-in-law won't relent in her bitchiness. These observations don't invalidate the truth of peace and the achievement of the peacemakers thus far. So we have to take the ball and run with it. But we are desensitized, as I say, desensitized to the violence, desensitized to the degradation and immorality. People watch pornography and it desensitizes them to the natural flow of love, sexuality between human beings. But they're receiving all the wrong messages, and as a consequence, it clogs up their system, and they're not able to have a natural, loving response.
And the abuse goes on.
Yes, abuse in that department. There's a lot of pain in the world, and when we look upon it, it's too much to bear. So we escape into sex, into, I don't know, heavy metal, into drugs, into shopping, into drugs, anything to blot the pain. So whatever we build upon the blotting of the pain cannot be a lasting solution. We are desensitized by information. Not only are we sold through an advertising industry on steroids, things that we don't need for our life and for our happiness, and which are just trinkets in a throwaway consumer society. We are also barraged and bombarded by information. There's an information overload in this world, which is part of our desensitization. Sound bites, bits of info are being belched out at us all day long, over television, over social media, and so on. We're not shown the connection between these bits. We're not directed to what's important. We get overloaded.
It's all hype.
Well, there's lots of hype, but there's also an avalanche, a tsunami of disconnected bits of information. And that tsunami of information is not knowledge, let alone wisdom. So, well, I don't know, think of a pyramid. The base is information. Halfway up is knowledge, and at the apex is something that we should be aspiring to. Wisdom. Philosophy means the love of wisdom. So to be of a philosophical bent, you want to know how to sift all of this information into knowledge and then proceed from there to wisdom. I say that they're all disparate pieces of information, but that's not quite the case, of course, because there is an implicit, latent narrative in all of these seeming disconnected bits of information. So maybe that's the first step. When you're listening to content on media, whether it's presented as fiction or non-fiction, whether it's projected or presented as news or entertainment, be aware of all the hooks that are used to grab your attention, because it's so easy to play on the lyre of the human consciousness, which thrills to sensationalism. It's very easy to get somebody in, suck them in with the sizzle, with the promise of gratification, or just with the excitement that there's another conflict on the horizon. Or there's conflict going on there, because somehow that energizes us, but it's a cheap, tawdry form of energization. It's like a sugar hit. It doesn't last.
For the desperate.
For the desperate, it doesn't bring happiness. So where you see that meretricious surface of content on the media, and the way it often just tries to fragment your consciousness such that you're looking at it night after night and it's making less and less sense. And what you're left with is an abiding feeling of impotence, can't do anything about it, and meaninglessness. So it does serve some perverse purpose. The purpose is to enforce the idea that we live in a haphazard universe governed by chance and largely disaster, and that bad things can happen to good people at any minute and there's no rhyme nor reason. So it's not only inducing a chronic state of fear, so everybody's adrenal system is working overtime, but it's also reinforcing a narrative of haphazardness and despair. There is no meaning. Now, philosophy properly seeks the meaning of life. So you have to take these sound bites and these packets of information and reassemble them into a narrative that does have meaning. Do you believe that life has a meaning? This is a watershed question. You could almost divide the people in the world between those who believe that there is no meaning to life and those who believe there is, which is evidenced by their conviction that things happen for a reason. Things happen to them personally for a reason, and things happen to us collectively for a reason, and things happen on this planet, indeed in this cosmos, for a reason, and there's a purpose and a meaning behind it all. Are you one of those people that believe that? If you're one of the people that doesn't, and I'm not judging you, but I imagine you could be falling asleep by now. Are you awake and following me? I'm sorry, it's not very sexy what I'm doing here, and it's not very sizzly, and it doesn't appeal to the taste for sensationalism. Because if there is no meaning, there's just gratification and hedonism as far as the eye can see. Eat, drink and be merry, for tomorrow we die, we turn to dust. Well, what's the point of doing anything? Oh, don't ask that. Just get busy, get distracted, and you won't have to answer that question. Mm-hmm. But if you're somebody who believes that life has a purpose and meaning, then maybe my words resonate with you. Maybe we're on the same wavelength, as it were. And so the more we bring our awareness together to that dimension of life, the grand narrative, the more alive we feel, the more energy we feel, the more awake we feel. Are you feeling awake now? I'm not screaming at you, I'm not entertaining you, I'm not selling to you or seducing you. I'm asking you whether you want to accompany me on a deepening inquiry. It's a different tune, but we have to be able to hear it. We have to attune our ear to the voices in our world, the voices of peace and harmony, because it is a very raucous world. What are significant? Is it the belligerent voices that are significant? Is it the counsels of despair that are significant? Is it the preachers of fear and doom that are significant? Or is it that still, small voice that speaks for peace and harmony that is significant? It comes at a price, as I say. It comes at a price of not cutting people out. Inclusiveness. We don't really know what democracy, we pay lip service to the ideal, but do we practice democracy? Do we practice equality? Do we practice forgiveness and justice? Just take inclusive participation. There is a growing resentment on the part of the populace, the demos, the people at large, against the ruling elite. You just have to turn on your social media and it's screaming out at you. The people don't want to be given the mushroom treatment anymore. The people don't want to be lied to anymore. They don't want to be manipulated. They don't want to be forced to go to war when they don't. They don't want their dollars to go to war when they don't want them to go to war. And again, a conflict is arising, which is a problem in itself because it tears away at the body politic, the fabric thereof. That conflict is between the governed and the governors, between the ruled and the rulers. Now, you can fall into a trap. Well, you can fall into a trap on either side. We have to walk along the ridge. We have to take the way down the middle, the golden mean. On one side, you can blanket out and say there is no issue here, there is no tension, and we can deny the conflict. Have you really transcended the conflict? Have you attained perfection? Are you just about to ascend to another realm? Well, then get real. We can acknowledge that there is a conflict, and there's a great level of public distrust in our leaders, the leaders of institutions and of government. So we don't want to slip over the edge into the error of denial, but by the same token, we don't want to simply foment hatred. I mean, we the people. We don't want to simply foment hatred against the power elite. But what does that lead? It takes us back to Marxist revolution or something, which is futile. But you want to violently overthrow the government. Here we have a conflict sorely in need of a resolution. But I ask you, and I ask you to think about this, is it just us versus them? Us, the people, them, these mysterious rulers that are pulling the strings behind the scenes. People get a lot of followers, they get a lot of traction and build up YouTube channels and make a lot of money by fueling this conflict. If that's what you want, tune into another channel.
There's no satisfaction.
Well, we're not here to breed hatred either at an individual or a collective level. Okay, we are the people. I'm just a guy from down the street with a video cam. I'm nobody important. And I presume that I'm talking to another regular person. If we say they've got us in a vice and they want to turn us into slaves, etc., and we just keep pumping that out, well, what are some of the problems with that?
And if it's true, what can you do about it?
Well, that's despair in a form, because you say, even if it's true, we just have to put up with it. In other words, we'll go on living feeling like a bunch of slaves. Isn't that wonderful? Where is human happiness and joy? Because every time you say they're doing it to us and we're frustrated and nothing's changed, you have given your power away to your opponent. But there is a reciprocal arrangement here, a kind of symbiosis. The rulers need the ruled and the ruled need the rulers. They only are there because we put them there in some way or other. We've given our power away and then we complain about what they do to us, instead of taking our power back and being at peace with them, because they're only a reflection of the state of the disempowerment of our own souls. Do you understand?